Okay, we're up to chapter 4, verse 41 of Vaetchanan. And all of a sudden it's strange because Moshe, up until now, is talking in the first person. And he's saying what he said to God. And now all of a sudden it says in the third person. And then Moshe separated the 3 cities on the other side of the Jordan. All of a sudden it's moved to the third person. So why is that happening? Okay, maybe Rashi says, "Az yavdil Moshe shalosh harim b'ever Yarden mizrach hashemesh." Then Moshe separated 3 cities on the other side of the Jordan, mizrach hashemesh, on the east. What does Rashi says? Az yavdil natan lev liot charad l'davar. He set his heart to be determined about the matter. Shayav dileim, afal pishenan koltot, achi bawit delotan sheberetz Canaan. Amar Moshe mitzvah she'efshar akaima akaimena. So basically, Moshe said, I'm going to separate the cities, even though I don't fulfill the mitzvah until, even though the cities don't function as cities of refuge until the cities in the land of Canaan. They had to separate 6 total cities, 3 cities on the eastern side of the Jordan and 3 cities on the western side of the Jordan. But Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't going to be able to separate the cities on the western side, but the 3 cities on the eastern side will not be able to absorb the accidental killers until the 3 cities on the western side were set up. So Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, well, there's no point in me setting up these cities now because they're useless until the other cities are set up. But instead, he set them up right away because he says, if I have the possibility to fulfill a mitzvah, I'm going to do that right away. Mitzvah she'efshar akaima akaimena. Mitzvah that I can fulfill, I'll fulfill.
Maybe according to Rashi, he's saying that it's in the third person. That's basically, he doesn't want to give himself the praise. That's why he's writing it like that. It's not part of my speech, but it is part of my speech.
I see, he's saying then he did it. I feel like this, okay.
To give us guidance, to
Right.
do it
Right.
like that.
Then it says, Be'ever Yarden mizrach hashemesh, on the eastern side of the Jordan, but also Ever shebemizracho shel Yarden, on that side which is on the eastern side of the Jordan, east of the Jordan. Mizrach hashemesh, lefi shehu davuk. Okay, this is a Rashi. He's telling us it's in the gerund form, the place of the genitive. The place of the rising sun is called genitive. Fine. Then it says in verse 42, Anu shama rotzeach asher yirtzach asrayeo, b'vui das v'lo somelo midmol shoshom, v'nasa achas min harima el v'chai. And then every murderer can run there if he kills somebody without knowledge, and he didn't, v'lo somelo midmol shoshom. He didn't hit him there yesterday or the day before, and he ran to one of these cities and he'll live. Okay, so these are the cities of refuge. And what are the names of the 3 cities? They're Betzer b'Midbar b'Eretz HaMishor L'Ruveni. Betzer in the wilderness, in the land of Mishor of the Reubenites. Ramot b'Gilad L'Gadi. And Golan b'Bashan L'Manashi. And there were 3 cities. What are the names of the 3 cities? Betzer, Ramot, Golan. Okay? V'zot HaTorah asher sem Moshe l'fnei bnei Israel. And this is the Torah that Moshe placed before the children of Israel. Rashi says, Zu shehu atid l'sader achar parasha zu. Again, here, this is again the third person Moshe. We say these are the laws which he arranged. Boy, Deborah or Michael. Mazel tov to you. We have a very powerful day, Deborah. Very powerful spiritual day. I want to just say something about this, this verse. Zot Torah asher sam Moshe b'nei bnei Yisrael. When do we say that pasuk? Anybody know? You need a chumash? When do we? Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, well, you say Zot Torah asher sam Moshe b'nei bnei Yisrael. But is that all you say? So a lot of people say Al pi Hashem b'yam Moshe. But when I was in Yeshiva University, the Rebbe who was teaching me then said he saw with his own eyes, and Moshe Feinstein didn't say that part. He just said, and that became my custom once the Rebbe told me. He says, just say Zot HaTorah or Sam Moshe B'nei Bnei Israel. For the other part, Api Hashem B'yam Moshe, is not an entire pasuk. It's an abbreviated version of the pasuk of a different verse, and so therefore we have a custom. We have a halacha. Kol pasuk Moshe Rabbeinu lo pasak anan lo paskinan. If Moshe doesn't break the verse, we don't break the verse, and so therefore, saw Moshe Feinstein just said this when the door is lifted. He just said this verse and he didn't add anything on. He just said V'zot Torah asher sam Moshe b'nei bnei Yisrael. He didn't say Al pi Hashem b'yam Moshe. And so when he heard that, when he taught me that when I was in college, I said, well, if it's good enough for Moshe Feinstein, then it's certainly good enough for me. So that became my practice. But I noticed I never saw anybody else have that practice, just with Moshe Feinstein and anybody who heard my teacher. A lot of people didn't hear him. I guess it was just me, but I just tell you.
Am I allowed to say the other verses that do have a Parshas Tumah in the middle of the verse? Like Melech Reuven.
No, that's different else. Al pi Hashem b'yam Moshe is just, it's not that there's a break in the middle of the verse. It's just the second part of the verse.
Right, I'm asking about the other ones that are broken.
Oh yeah, can you stop? I don't know. Yeah, that's a different point. But the basic point is that's what Moshe Feinstein did. Okay. Then it says, so what is the Torah? He says, this is the teaching that we're about to arrange now. We're in chapter 4, verse 45. These are the laws and the testimonies. Asher Diber Moshe b'nei Israel, that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel. It's a Tamim Mitzrayim when they left Egypt. These are the laws and the Chukim and the Mishpatim Asher Diber Moshe b'nei Israel. These are the laws and the judgments that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel when they left Egypt, when they went out of Egypt. Rashi says, we'll do one more verse. It's almost basically the way we have to read these psukim is it interrupts the narrative. Moshe gave his first speech, which ends at verse 40, and now it's almost like an interlude. Between his first speech and the second speech, Moshe sets up the 3 cities, and now they say, and this is the laws that Moshe placed before the children of Israel. These are the laws that Moshe spoke, and we're about to get to the third speech. We're about to get to the second speech. We finished the first speech, narrator interrupts. He says, and where did Moshe give this speech? On the other side of the Jordan, in the valley, Moshe gave the speech in the valley opposite Beit Peor in the land of Sichon, the king of the Amorites. He's dwelling in Heshbon, where Moshe struck down and Bnei Israel when they left Egypt. Okay. What does Rashi say? These are the ones which he spoke when they left Egypt. He told to them again, at the plains of Moab, on the other side of the Jordan. So these are the laws which he spoke when they went out of Egypt, and he taught them again at the plains of Moab. So he's repeating the laws. Verse 47, by Yeshua Tartzo, that Eretz Og Nocha Bashan, and they inherited his land in the land of Og. Shnei Malchei Amoria Asher Be'ever HaYordim Mizrach Shemesh, the 2 kings of the Amorites that are on the east of the sun. Me'aroer Asher Asfas Nachal, from the Aroer on the banks of the river Arnon, Ad Har Sion Hu Charmon, until the Charmon. And this is all the borders which they took. And now we begin the second speech that Moses makes. So we've had the first speech, now we get to the second speech that Moshe Rabbeinu makes. Chapter 5, verse 1. Vayikra Moshe, I'll call Yisrael, Vayomer Oyam. Moshe calls to all of Israel and he says to them, he says, Shema Yisrael, et hachukim, et hamishpatim asher anochi dover ba'aznechem hayom, u'maratem otam u'shmartem u'asatam. He says, listen, Israel, to the laws and the judgments that I'm going to speak in your ears today, and learn them and guard them. Verse 3. Hashem Elokeinu karati manu brit b'chorev. Hashem our God made a covenant for us with us at Chorev. Lo et avoteinu karat Hashem et brit hazot. God did not make this covenant with our forefathers. Ki itanu anachnu elu po hayom kuronuchim. He made this covenant with all of us today. Rashi says, Lo et avoteinu mavad karat Hashem, not with our forefathers, both us. Verse 4. Panim befanim diber Hashem imachem bahar mitoch ha'esh. Face to face, God spoke with you in the mountain from the midst of the fire. God spoke to you face to face. Amar Rabbi Barachia Kachar Moshe. This is what Moshe said. Al tomru ani mateh eslam alo davar kederach sha'asir sur oseh bein hamocher u'lokeach harei hamocher atzmo medaberchem. Rabbi Barachia said, this is what Moshe said. Do not say that I'm misleading you. That's not true. That's what a middleman does between the seller and the buyer. The seller himself speaks with you. You're getting the goods straight from the seller. You don't have a middleman. God spoke to you face to face. And I was standing there between Hashem and you at that time. To tell you what God said. Because you were afraid from the fire and you didn't go up the mountain. Way more. This is what it goes saying, meaning this is what this refers back. Rashi says, God spoke to you from the fire, and this is what he said. Anochi Hashem. And Hashem said this while I was standing between Hashem and you, because you were afraid of the fire. And now Moshe is telling the next generation what happened when God spoke to face, and that's why Moshe is going to repeat the 10 Commandments. The first time is when it happened, and the second time now is the retelling, the restating of the 10 Commandments. Now, there are 17 words that are added into the second version of the 10 Commandments, but or there are 17 differences of words, 17 word differences. But the most famous is that Shabbat is very famous, but there's another one that is even more poignant, and that is that the word tov is taken out of the commandments. The word tov appears in the second version of the 10 Commandments, but not the first version. If you look at verse 16, I'm just jumping ahead. Honor your father and mother, just like Hashem commanded you, so that you'll have a long life, or man yitav lach, so it'll be good for you. The word tov does not appear in the first set of 10 Commandments. Why? Because if it would have been there when it broke, it would be like God is breaking the good for us. So we're saying the good that God is giving us can't break. Follow that? But you don't follow that? Say it more. So the word tov was taken out of the 10 Commandments. The word tov was put in the second time. It was supposed to be there the first time, but through divine foreshadowing, it was not included because we knew that Hashem knew that the first set of tablets would break. And it can't be that the good would break. If the good were in there, they wouldn't be able to break, or else it would be irreversible. Yeah, Viva.
Interesting, where the word good is used at the very beginning, right? It's
Right.
good.
Exactly.
Here at the very end,
And here in the,
it's putting back the word good.
very nice. And here will be good for you. At the beginning it says, because God saw that it was good, very good. But here, the word tov is added in. Yeah, I'm sorry, you were trying to say something, Seth?
In the previous pasuk, when Moshe tells them you were afraid of the fire and you didn't come to the mountain,
Yeah,
weren't they not allowed to come to the
right.
mountain?
It's a very,
Only he was the one that was permitted. Why would he throw that back? It just-
well, they weren't allowed. They weren't allowed to ascend the mountain, but they did say, we can't handle God speaking to us face to face. You have to say it to us. But they
It
were,
says you're afraid of the fire. That's right. That's what they said. They're too powerful, too much. But that doesn't, I don't know. Is that just another way of saying the fire is Hashem? And you're too afraid of the
God.
intensity of the heat of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's go through the 10 Commandments, see what Rashi decides to comment on. Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzitecha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. I am Hashem your God, who led you out from Egypt, from the house of slaves. V'yeh lecha Elohim achirim al panai. Do not have other gods. Al panai. B'kol makom asher ani sham, wherever I am. That's the whole world, Rashi says. Davar achar, kol zman shani kayam, aseret kol man shani kayam. And then Rashi says, aseret hadibrot kfar pirashtim. The 10 Commandments I've already explained. The Rashi is saying it dealt with all the problems of the 10 Commandments. So he's not going to comment on everything. In fact, he comments on very little of it. Lo ta'aseh lecha ta'aseh kol tmuna asher b'shamayim mimav asher ba'aretz mitachat asher b'mayim mitachat ha'aretz. Do not make an idol of any likeness of that which is in heaven, or the earth, or in the water underneath the earth. Well, you're not going to make an image. Do not bow down to them. Do not worship them. I'm a zealous God. I visit the sins of the fathers on the sons, on the third and the fourth generations for those who despise me. What about the sins of the children onto their fathers? I was thinking about that now. Okay, I'm gonna deviate from not speaking politics. Usually I never, ever say anything political. But we have a person who seems to be very disturbing, this Robert Kennedy Jr. But his father seemed like a great guy. I mean, his father seemed like a very powerful, inspirational figure. I'm not saying I followed his political career that closely, but he seemed like a very righteous man, who gave his life for his country. But now we have this son who really is, all people who are the younger generation are just going to associate that name, Robert Kennedy, for these people today. We're just going to associate with this guy who's dabbling with the anti-Semites, dabbling with the conspiracy mongers, and it's the opposite, visiting the sins of the sons on their parents. That's what I was thinking about that. Yeah. What? Yeah.
Says that
Yeah.
you speak in the market, you heard it either from your father or from your mother.
But he never knew his father. I mean, he must have been like 2 or 3 years old when his father was killed. He was a teenager? The son was a teenager? Okay, I don't know enough to comment. But
My brother was in it. I went to school
with the brother.
the older one, the one that flew the plane upside down.
No, that's the one who died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
That's his cousin.
Oh, cousin.
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy?
Yeah. Yeah. But he does he does dabble in anti-Semitism. What got me very upset was he said something like, in Nazi Germany, even Anne Frank knew how to hide. And to me, that is like dog whistling. And he's saying, but here we can't hide from the vaccine. But I'm saying, like, when you speak like that, you're dog whistling to the racists. Anyway, politics over, back to the text of the Torah.
Question about verse 8.
Yeah.
Is verse 8 a separate commandment or is it a fence to verse 9?
That's a whole dispute amongst the commentaries.
Today we
Yes.
saw lots of
Images.
sculptures and
Yeah.
images. But obviously they weren't created for
Worship.
worship.
That's a whole conversation. You're absolutely right. But we're not gonna get into that because we're just
No,
doing
I'm just
worship.
saying that the Torah usually gives fences.
No, but I will say this, that the verses, the way the verses are divided here, when we read the Torah, for the Ten Commandments, there's a different trup that we read. It's called Tam Elyon, and we divide it differently. The verses are not divided like they're divided here. Not all of them.
What's the purpose of having the other trope if we never read it like that?
Like this,
What would
there's two traditions.
To read it like the one way and the other way?
There's two traditions of
There's
how
some
it's
people
read.
that read it like this trope.
Well, I don't know anymore, but there were. Yeah, there were. And then you retain the tradition, even though you retain the memory of that tradition, even though you don't do it.
Why?
We have the custom. I don't know enough about it, actually. I feel like I should have been better prepared. But there's two. There's the trup is called the tam, the musical notation. So normally we just read the musical notations that are in the printed Chumash. But for the Ten Commandments, there's something in the back of the Chumash. It's called Tam Elyon, and there's a second set of musical notations, and that's the ones we read for the Ten Commandments, not the ones that are printed here. So how did that develop? I don't know, like the whole story. Not just the melodies, but also the division of the verses. Not just yes. And so
6, 7, and 8 are in one verse instead of 3.
yeah, so it's not just so we have to. I could research
Right.
it and never. I don't know how offhand that I have to look, but the point is, how did it happen that way? Yeah, sometimes when you talk things out, you realize there's some basic point that you should have investigated and we never
I
investigated.
think one of the simple reasons is to get people to pay attention to feel indicating that something different is happening.
It could be.
One of them.
That could be.
That happens more than we hear.
It could be. It could also be that there was just competing versions.
Verse
About,
17, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all in one verse here,
yeah,
but in the Talmud, they're separated to 4 different verses, right?
or just the opposite.
Sorry.
I don't know. I have to.
Yeah, you see that? Verse 17.
Here we go. Here.
Saying
Yeah,
6, 7, 8,
listen. I have a note here. The Ten Commandments are read with two different sets of trope. The version presented in the text is used by the individual who is reviewing the weekly Sedra. The version used by the reader for the public Torah reading appears in a box on page 422. So it depends where you are. Very nice. Okay, so now it says, we can look up afterwards why it is that there's two separate tropes. And you do kindness for thousands of generations. For those who love me and guard and observe my commandments. She says, they do kindness for thousands of generations. God does kindness for those who love me and guard my commandments. Lo sisa Hashem Hashem Alkecha Hashav. Do not take God's name in vain. Ki lo yinaka Hashem. God will not absolve et asher yishsa Shmo Hashav. One who takes his name in vain. Shamor et Yom HaShabbat l'kacho. Guard the Shabbos and keep it holy. Kasher tzivcha Hashem Alkecha. Like Hashem your God commanded you. What does it mean, guard? So Rashi now right away comments a very big difference. Marishono to Omer Zachor. In the first set of Ten Commandments says, remember, Shneim b'dibur echad u'b'teva achat nemru. Both of them were said with one speech and with one word. U'b'shmiya achat nishma'u. And they were heard as a single hearing. Meaning to say, both Shamor and Zachor were said at the same time. And they were heard as a single hearing. How is that even possible? The ear, I understand that it can be said at the same time because it's God saying the words. But how could we hear them? But that's what happened.
And Moshe just hear them at the same time. And then
Did Moshe also repeat them? Or maybe only Moshe and Rabbeinu heard them. And then, some early editions of Rashi say they miraculously appeared as a single word on the stone tablets. Because then we have a question: which one was written on the tablets? So it would probably have to be Zachor because this is the second version. I don't know. Kasher tzifah as Hashem command you, kodem matan Torah b'mara. Oh, so now Rashi is pointing out, why does it say like God commanded you? Isn't God commanding you here to observe the Shabbos? And this is Sinai. So when were you commanded? So Shabbos was commanded even before Mount Sinai, right after they crossed the sea, and they went to Mara, and there they got 3 commandments, 3 mitzvos at Mara. Because Hashem wanted to give us the ability to be merit, to be worthy to receive the Torah. So we had to get commandments. I'm sorry?
These 4 words aren't in the first version either.
Not sure.
Zachor Yom HaShabbat V'Kadshoseh
Yeah, yeah.
Shmini Tavor V'Stakor.
Yeah, they're not there either, right?
So that's why Rashi has to come.
Yeah.
Also, you zachor by Shavuot, by keeping Shavuot, learning Shavuot, remember.
So the rabbis say that the Zachor is reflective of the positive aspects of the positive aspects of the mitzvot, the positive commandments, and positive aspects of Shabbos, and Shamor represents the negative prohibitions of Shabbos. Like Zachor reflects making Kiddush, Oneg Shabbos, making delight, but sanctifying Shabbos. Shamor means don't light fires and don't cook, etc. Look who's here, look who walked in. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he grew a lot. He grew a lot. All right, we'll stop the recording here and we'll have a mincha. Shakayach to everyone. Oh, you got more kippot? Let's see what we